Hey guys, welcome to the Park Score podcast. I am your host, Park Score, and today I have a very special guest, Mr. Jack Spencer. Jack?
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course, man. So Jack is the bassist of a drum and bass project called Melk the G6-49, a super dope, you could say, noise. How would you classify the band? What's the genre?
Noise is on the right path. Yeah, noise rock, doom, kind of
Cool.
stone rock. Yeah.
Cool, right on. So I am today interviewing Jack because his band is really sick, and unfortunately, there's just not enough info about them online. And I was like trying to dig into them the other day after diving into their discography again, and I happened to come across Jack's Twitter profile, and we got connected. And I just want to learn more about the band because me and my brother we have like a little bass drum duo that we do. Very very inspired by the whole noise sound. I had first discovered you guys because I was on the Lightning Bolts Pandora page, and then Melk came up. It was the song Henry, and I was like, "Yo, this band is sick! Like, super distinct sound, super crazy, um, like bass tone, which I want to get into later, and kind of ask you more about that. But yeah, do you mind just like telling us about who you are and about the band and kind of like you guys' story?"
Yeah, sure. It's cool you mentioned Lightning Bolt because they definitely kind of influenced me with that specific riff on that song too. So that's cool.
Okay, right on, man.
Definitely, Carl Hofstetter is the drummer of the band, and I played bass, and we were always pretty much a duo. And we went to like high school together, grew up together. So we just decided to, start this band, and we never really found a good third piece that fit. So we just kept it drum and bass, and we always liked keeping it without vocals and just keeping it like noise and music. And originally, we started playing shows every Monday night at this local all ages venue called the Festavilla, this like really rundown place in a really shady neighborhood in Indianapolis. And we started playing every Monday night there. Old Gravy Mondays is what it was called because we hooked up with this guy named Phil Mott who had this record label that he was trying to start up, and he called it Old Gravy Records. So we had Old Gravy Mondays. So we kind of just like kind of got our feet wet playing shows every week doing that, and we kept it real loose and did a lot of improvisation for a lot of the early stuff. And then eventually just started figuring out riffs we like to play and kind of wrote songs around that. But most of our songs have like improvisational elements to them on a lot of our recordings too. So um, yeah, that's kind of how we got started. The Melvins were a huge influence on us, their sound. So, a lot of like free jazz too, we were really into. So, yeah.
Nice. And so, like when you guys had started out the project, was there any sort of ambitions of like where you guys wanted to take it? Was it kind of had you guys outlined that between the two of you, or was it kind of just like just a sort of fun thing that you guys kind of happened into?
Well, yeah, I mean, it kind of, we started in high school just as like a fun thing, just kind of screwing around and just making our own recordings. And eventually I mean, I think we kind of always had an idea to take it out on the road and play shows and make recordings. Um, I mean, eventually, I mean, Carl is still heavily involved in the music scene. He runs Joyful Noise Recordings here, which is a local label. Um, so check them out if you haven't. They put out a lot of records. Um, Folk Explosion is a record that, or a band that, um, from the '90s. Lou Barlow is like the bass player for Dinosaur Jr. and they just put out a new Folk Implosion record on that label too. So um, Carl's still doing tons of stuff, heavily, like I said, involved in independent music and the comeback of vinyl. I feel like um, he's really pushed hard. So, um, and so we always had an idea to, just get our music out there and take it out on the road. And then eventually, we just parted ways. But yeah.
And so, talk to me a little bit about the process of recording you guys's you guys' albums. How was that? What was that process like?
Originally, we just recorded in my garage and had like I think we had like a 16 track, like tape. It was like little mini tapes that you could transfer onto like other devices, like a CD to dub. So we started there. I think our first record, it's called Mene Mene Tekel Parson. That one, that's how we recorded that. After that, we went into like a studio and actually like recorded onto tape and our process was basically just playing our songs live and like together a lot of the times. I remember even once one of the producers of the recording was like, "You guys want to add anything else to it?" And we were just like, "No, it's good. Like that's all we needed." So we kept it really simple and loose. And I remember even a couple of the songs on our recordings, we kind of wrote in studio too, like right before we recorded them. And we're just like, this sound like, or I might have had ideas kind of worked up already, and we're like, well, this is one we haven't really tried yet. Let's try it real quick, and then we just hit play and recorded it, and we're like, well, that sounded great. So
Mhm.
a lot of first takes and just kind of winging it and just going, well, that sounded good. Let's just keep it. Let's not overthink it.
Nice, nice. And so yeah, like I think I'd read somewhere that the recording of one of the albums took place over just like a 7 hour period. It was just like,
Yeah.
is that true or is that okay? Cool. Yeah, no, that's I think that's super dope. And another thing too that's kind of striking about some of the songs. So how would you guys go about naming songs? Like, was there any sort of like what was that process like?
I mean, sometimes we just would, I mean, a lot of them were like biblically based.
Yeah, I noticed that, and I was gonna ask. I was gonna ask about that because that was very interesting to me.
Yeah. Like originally we kind of just like, it was just kind of a cool subject matter, I feel like, to use in album art and song titles. And like there's just lots of cool stories and names and phrases
Mhm.
find like in the Bible. And
Mhm.
a lot of originally, I mean, sometimes we would just like open the Bible randomly and like put our finger down and like point to something and be like, "That's going to be the title." That happened a few times.
Oh, cool.
Like Apollyon was one of our song titles, which he's like a destroyer. So I thought that was a good song title for like a doom metal song, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
But, but then like we pulled from some like literature and stuff too. Like there's Kilgore is the name of one of our songs, and that was like Kilgore Trout from like the William S. Burroughs Naked Lunch novel. That was like kind of we named that song after that character kind of loosely, even though there's no lyrics, you wouldn't know, but but so yeah. One of our song titles is Big as a Mountain, which is
Hmm.
a biblical thing too. I think we got it out of, but we didn't realize it at the time. It was actually the song title of a Melvin song off of their first record.
Oh.
And
Mm,
it's not a cover though. It's like a completely different song. And like we realized
mm,
later, even though we were like big Melvins fans, we like didn't even make the connection until after we'd already like printed the record. And then funny enough,
yeah.
so uh Carl, he's about to put out the new Dale Crover record, and he's the Melvins drummer. He's putting out this solo record by Dale, and it's called Glossolalia, which was the name of our record. But Dale
Mhm.
didn't know that. So now we have a a Melvin song that's not a Melvin song, and he has
Oh wow.
like a Melk album that's not a Melk album, being
Dang.
like put out by the drummer of Melk. So I just think that's really
Yeah. That's funny. So like I think it's really cool that there's like a biblical basis for a lot of these names. Were either one of you guys raised in like a religious household, or like how does that go?
I mean, I wasn't really raised in a religious household. I was raised Catholic. And,
Hmm.
I've been through like a lot of, gone through a lot of denominations and churches trying
Hmm.
to like, find, the right one. I've never really found the right one.
Hmm.
So, Carl was raised in a Christian home as well. So, and at the time we were both, it was like just like post 9/11. I think there was a lot of like, you know, hysteria going through the country, like Christian, everyone was like kind of like turning towards that. And we certainly like felt it too. Like, I've got a really good story I'll tell on from like my personal 9/11 story real quick, not to get like, it's not, I don't want to get dark or anything, but this is it was just
Hey, no, yeah, feel free.
so we were, I was in junior in high school, and we had study hall that day during the attacks when they happened. And I happened to be reading the Bible during study hall. And I was reading the verse where Jesus is on the mount talking about how you'll hear and rumors of wars, but know that this is not the end. I was literally reading
Mm.
the verse like right as I looked up and saw the attacks happening on the TV. So, I mean,
Wow.
that was a powerful thing. I mean, it might have just been
Yeah.
a little coincidence. Maybe it was a spiritual thing. But so like during my like early 20s and stuff, I was pretty religious. But I still do believe in God and have a belief um, in Jesus and all that. So, but I'm not a big fan of organized religion too much anymore. So, and I know Carl feels the same way as well. And we never
Mhm.
promoted our band as a Christian band or anything. We just
Mhm.
used a lot of that imagery and stuff like that. And so, yeah.
Cool. Yeah, no, no, I also am Christian, and me and my brother, it's interesting. So he just graduated college, so we're I'm 24, he's 22, and we both a lot of our conversations revolve around our faith and stuff like that. But then also we are into sort of the like heavier rock kind of kind of stuff, and definitely have found it to be like a major source of inspiration for like sort of our band. If not in like an overt sense, then just like more so in like kind of a subtextual sort of a sense, like not being too over the top with sort of our like Christian influence, but kind of just letting it like sort of inform where we try to take things, because a lot of we kind of were involved with like the Houston punk scene for a little while, and it seems like kind of a trap that a lot of bands fall into is just trying to be shocking or trying to do stuff that's intentionally kind of just like purely for shock value, and we've always kind of thought that a bit cheap, and so we've always thought like, well, how can we do something that's a little bit more maybe sincere.
Yeah.
um, I don't know. It's a strange balance to try to find, but No, I've gotten a lot of inspiration from Melk, and like I think it's just a really cool thing to see like a band because okay, I'll say like you have a lot of Christian bands who are very overt to the point of cheesiness, um, and it almost makes faith seem like it's sort of this thing that has to be completely separate from like everyday life, versus like a band like Milk where it's kind of just like it's it's subtle. It's not like in your face, but it's part of it. Like the kind of biblical influence is like clearly part of it, and it's just cool. It's cool to have stuff like that, and it's cool that stuff like that exists. And but so talk to me a little bit about your like musical influences, because whenever I was showing Milk to my brother, he was just like he was like first thing he said was he was like, dude, that bass tone is insane. And he's a bassist. He's a bassist. I'm a drummer. And so yeah, talk to me a little bit about influences. Or actually, before you get into that, really quick, where'd you guys get the name? How'd you guys decide on that name?
Yeah. We were just sitting around the lunch table, coming up with weird ideas for a name when we were like in high school, and just being weird. And at the time, there was like Blink 182 and Sum 41, all these like punk
All
bands,
right.
numbers. And we had, people like we had a friend who would always call milk Melk, like at the lunch table. And then someone just said like, just like stupid, like Melk the G6-49. And we were like, that'd be a good name for a band, like Sum 41, right? Just joking. And
Mm-hmm.
just kind of stuck. And um, I don't know. It's I never really liked the band name honestly, but it does
Really?
kind of it does like somehow like say what we are in a weird way. I can't explain it, like
Yeah.
what the sound is.
No.
It's like I can't.
No.
So, but it's like speaking in tongues, like glossolalia. So it's like I
Yeah.
don't.
No, I love the name. And like you said, I think the name really does. I think it is kind of definitive, like of you guys' sound. The because like also I feel some like math influence in there. Like to me it's like noise, jazz, math, like doom. There's like a lot of all of that mixed in there, and so um, yeah, just like talk to me about like the influences for you guys sonically, and then also here in a second, I want to just like totally nerd out about gear.
Okay, sure. Like I already mentioned the Melvins. They're probably like our biggest influence by far. Uh, so and like my sound specifically, I guess. Like I always just played my bass like a guitar, like power chords, and just like I'd really like beat the hell out of my bass and strum really hard and break strings like all the time. Uh, and I just love that doom sound. Like Sleep is another band that just had this like
Mm,
really like heavy raw sound, and like they'd have these songs that would go on for like 30 minutes, and it was
mm,
like two or three notes, and
mm,
so I always love stuff like that. But then like like jazz, okay, like Ornette Coleman, just like crazy jazz stuff. Um, or even like some Miles Davis, where it's just like free form. But we didn't really
mm.
deal in chords and stuff. And it was, I'm the only one playing the notes, so I really didn't have to worry too much about um, what I was playing. I could just play whatever I want, and just and Carl listened to me and I'd listen to him. And um, so like as far as like scales and stuff go, um, as far as like a jazz influence, that's not what influenced me, but just like the free form of like of playing whatever you want and listening to who you're playing with. Um,
Hmm.
and like Sonic Youth, punk fans were a huge influence for sure. Nirvana, of course. Um, and Yeah, I mean, I always really liked like heavy pounding, like fast paced kind of punk rock too. Um, Although we never really did a lot of that. We kind of splice it in there a little bit, and then just switching it up with like slow doom for sure. So I never really liked pop music as much, and really at the time when we were recording a lot, I really hated like digital recordings and stuff, and like computer um, generated sounds and keyboards and stuff like that. I mean, I really like, synth pop and 80s music and stuff now as I'm older, but at the time I just liked the raw sound, like Steve Albini, like really just record in the room. You don't have to add much to it. So
Hmm. Hmm. Nice. And so as far as when it came to choice of amp or just like tone chasing, are you like a huge pedals guy, or like how do you kind of go about like sort of creating that Melk sound?
yeah, definitely a huge pedals guy. I pretty much just stuck to like Boss pedals. I had an overdrive pedal that I was in love with, a bass overdrive, and but and like I had tons of pedals. Like I had a dynamic wah and phase shifters and distortions and a loop station so I could loop things. It was like an 8 track so I could like record things onto it and loop all sorts of things in real time, while I was playing live. And that was always really cool, kind of integral part of our set. Um, so as far as like amps and stuff go, I'm not a gearhead like at all. Like that's just one thing that I never really got into about just like being a musician was just like all the like nerd musician stuff because I just always like having whatever I could and just like make a sound out of it, like that was always my
Hmm.
so but I did have like 6 8x10 uh stack, like Ampeg stack that I would haul around so I could get like a huge sound, um so I used that for years and just I had just random heads throughout the years, so nothing really like I can like recall and like call out that I was, oh yeah, this is what I used specifically for that reason. It was never really
Hmm.
like that for me. So
Cool.
yeah,
Right on. And then so um, you had mentioned like playing um, on Monday night, like every Monday night at the Festivilla.
yeah,
So like, tell me about like some like stories from shows and stuff. Because so me and my brother, like I said, we're in a drum and bass duo, and we're still pretty young when it comes to like playing shows and stuff. And so what can you tell us about like playing shows, or like what do you, if you remember like any stories from like that time?
yeah. Like we would just go. I think we just went to shows at this place. It was run by this guy named Smedley. And if there's anyone like my age who was around Indianapolis at that time, they probably remember this guy Smedley. And he had like multiple all ages clubs that he'd run where he'd just put on shows. Um, and so we just, I think, just talked to him and we're like, hey, we got a band. Can we put on a show here? He's probably like, I've got a Monday night open. And Mondays, weren't a very, big night for anyone to play a show. So we kind of just took it over and started inviting, our friends' bands and stuff like that. And I can't remember exactly how long we did that. Maybe like a couple years. And then we just play around Indianapolis, and um, so I mean, as far as stories go, like eventually we went out like on tour, like all across the U.S. and there was like hit and miss shows everywhere. And I gotta credit Carl for putting like all these shows together too. So, um, but I remember there was like one we had in, I think it was like Iowa, and like there was absolutely nobody there at all. So we just like, played our set to like the bartender and ended up like, for I remember us personally felt like, oh, that was a really great show. Like we sounded great. Like it felt, even though no one saw it. And then uh we were in, I remember, Santa Fe, New Mexico on an off day. We didn't even have a show, and we stopped at this like diner, and we're talking to the waitress, and we mentioned we were in a band. We didn't have anything to do that night, so she invited us to her house, and we just ended up playing a house show at her house.
Oh, that's sick.
Came
That's
and like,
cool.
yeah, and it was like one of the better shows, you know, um, of that time. So that was really cool. Yeah. We got pulled over a couple times in cities. One time I was like really sick from just being sick, like because I think we were traveling. My body wasn't used to being in kind of different states.
Mhm.
But I picked up a bug or something, and we were in like the Badlands, like in the desert. I think it was an off day too, while we were traveling from like, I think we were traveling from like Minnesota to um, Portland, and we got pulled over by this park ranger, and I'm like sick in the back seat, like dying. And our friend who was with us, Thomas, who was kind of like our roadie, and made sure we didn't die while we were out there. But he was like, his first words out of his mouth were like, "Don't worry, he's not on drugs or anything." And we're just like, "Come on, like, why would you say that?" Like, and I wasn't either, which is like the funny thing. But we ended up, they didn't like arrest us or anything. They let us go, but they're just like, slow down, you were going too fast, right? So um but I mean, playing shows is just like a grind. You just got to keep going, and you're gonna play a lot of bad shows, and it gets really frustrating for sure when you have a whole like shows. But I feel like you just got to keep going, and because if you quit, and then it's kind of over. It's hard to get it going again. So,
Mhm. And so that was going to be my next question is, so like obviously, like being in a band can be a pretty it can take a lot out of you, like emotionally, obviously. And so were there ever like any frustrations between the two of you guys? Did tensions ever run high, or was there maybe like times where you guys maybe didn't see eye to eye, and like how was that?
I mean, we spent so much time together, like every single day almost, and traveling
Mhm.
together. So, I mean, you're gonna have times where things kind of boil over for sure. But I mean,
Yeah.
we're really like brothers, so I don't, you know, um, there's nothing ever like that big of a deal, um, that we could never, you know, work through or whatever. So
Cool.
it's gonna happen. I mean,
Uh,
anytime you spend that much time with somebody, that kind of stuff happens. Yeah.
yeah. And so, at what point were you guys like? Was it sort of a conscious decision to sort of be like, we're gonna go sort of go do our own things now, or how did the band sort of like reach its conclusion for you guys?
Um, yeah, Carl started the Joyful Noise label right at the end, like when we were releasing the last album that we put out, and he was really all gung ho about doing that, and I just wanted to get like a real job, And because like when we went out on tour, at one point, I guess that would be our last tour, the big one we did. Um, like I didn't have a job coming home or anything, so like when I got home, I was like, I need to like really like um, prioritize and get things going in my real life, and stuff like that. And he decided to start a label, and that was risky on his own um, end to do that and make that his life. And he's done a great job with that. But um, I personally never really liked touring or traveling and playing shows very much. And like being on stage, I never really enjoyed um, being kind of like the center of the attention. That's not something I've ever been after, and I've never been after. I don't think Melk. We never set out to like be um, famous or get notoriety for anything. We just did what we wanted to do. I was inspired by the DIY punk rockers and just wanted to like do that, and I did it. And I kind of found that I didn't really enjoy that as much, like traveling and being out and being on stage. So I think for me personally, that's kind of um, where it started. And we kind of just like we're like I personally was like I just don't really want to do this anymore right now. I think we kind of always had, or at least an idea, maybe we might revisit it again, but so we haven't. But
Mhm. Cool. And then um, do you have any like advice for maybe like a young band who's like maybe listens to Melk and is like, these guys are super dope. I wanna learn something from them. I want to take something from their experience. What would you like sort of have to say, or what would you have to like pass on?
okay, just be true to yourself and like make music from the heart and try not to do things to like you know for money or to like get famous, because I don't think um you know people can see through that, and there might be a bigger audience for that perhaps, because maybe there are more people who are into that kind of thing. But um I mean, I've always been proud of the work that I did on Milk. um so just be true to yourself and just keep going, I'd say. And you know like I said earlier, you can play a bunch of bad shows, and it can get frustrating, but I think just like keep playing and just don't stop. So
Mhm. Mhm. And so, do you still? I mean, do you still play bass today, like recreationally, or what sort of like projects are you working on nowadays?
um yeah, I still play bass like just for myself. Um
Mm-hmm.
and I've got, things I work on, but I've the last band I was working with was this group called In Parentheses. They're a local band here in Indianapolis. I was playing bass for them. And they're kind of a math rock band. But it was weird going into that band because they already had songs written, so I had to like go in.
Hmm.
They were like, come up with your own parts, for these songs, but it's just hard to come up with like things that mean much to you when the songs are written. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, and um, I'm not really into like math rock as much either. So which might sound weird, but uh, with some of the sounds of Milk. But um, so um, and I've played in some other groups too, like um, Sense Milk. But right now I'm not currently doing anything musical. So
Cool. And I had kind of checked out your YouTube a little bit, so it seems like you are kind of a a comic savant. Do you care to talk about that at all?
Yeah, sure.
'Cause that seems like that's like your current sort of project.
Yeah, I'm a huge comic book nerd. So, yeah, about 4 months ago, I just decided to start a YouTube channel where I look at comic books, um, just talk about the artwork and stuff. I mean, I just do my own little artwork for myself too. I'm not like an artist trying to promote art or anything. I just,
Mhm.
I always have and just draw like superheroes and stuff and like come up with my own characters and stuff. So I've always loved comic books, and I've got a huge collection. So I just decided, um, honestly, there's just like so many. I went on YouTube trying to like find like comic videos to watch, like, and there's very few that aren't like overtly political or just like
Mm,
you know.
mhm,
So I'm like, I just want to have like straight up, thoughtful reviews of comic books, without being like overly
mhm,
negative or political or something.
mhm,
Um, And I had a friend who always told me to do this because it was an idea I always had, and so I decided I just needed to do it. Yeah, it's become like a daily hobby for me. Um, I'm a dad now. I've got a 16-year-old son, so he's kind of like the focus of my life. And really, like after Milk, that kind of became like what I focused on more than music, and everything
mhm,
provided for him. So, I think the music industry is a really tough industry to get in. Getting back to like what you asked me earlier about advice, I mean, really think about it if that's what you want to do. If like pursuing music, you should really think about that before you like jump into it. Especially now, it's like a really different type of industry. That's why we always stuck to like touring and selling CDs and selling T-shirts and stuff like that to try and make money because you're not going to make
mhm,
like off of your digital downloads and stuff like that
mhm,
off of Spotify
mhm.
like that. So um, yeah. So but yeah, check out my YouTube channel. Kaufman is alive, and I'm on Twitter at Kaufman is alive, and also I'm on Instagram at Kaufman underscore is underscore alive. And I'm not as active on Instagram, but um, yeah, check me out at all those places for sure. And I post daily comic book videos, so it's a fun thing I do. So it's growing. It's pretty cool. I'm kind of surprised, as many people watch as they do. It's pretty cool. So
No, that's cool. Well, yeah, man. Thank you for like hopping on today. I'm glad we got to talk about Milk and kind of unearth some of the history of this band. They have been a sound that has intrigued me for a good long while, and were today, or sorry, were before today a complete mystery to me. And so now I'm like actually happy that I got to kind of talk to you, man.
well, it's cool. I want to bring up real quick how like we met on Twitter, if you don't mind.
Yeah, yeah. I think that'd be great.
It was on this BBC news post where it was talking about the Killers releasing Mr. Brightside. Um,
Yeah.
and I can't remember exactly. It was like they didn't sell as many records as they wanted to or something. Was the
It was the Killers. Mr. Brightside is number one song to have never actually like charted.
right? So I post
Yeah.
because Milk released Glossolalia like the same day or something, which is true. And I just thought that was funny because I always really disliked the Killers, specifically that song, Mr. Brightside. I really hate that song. Not to be overly negative or anything. If you like that song, that's fine. But so I just always thought it was funny. We released our album right when they did. So you posted, "How come no one ever talks about Milk?" And I said, "Oh well, I'm
Yes.
only talking about them because I'm the bass player." So
Which was a very hilarious tweet for me to get back. I was like kind of like mind blown. I was like, wow, like that's actually pretty awesome. And then yeah, and then we connected over DM, and I was like, yo, I'd love to interview you because yeah, no, I like for a while before that, I had been sort of Googling about this band. Pretty much the only like extensive sort of literature I could find was on Joyful Noise recordings, and that was how I figured out about the whole 7 hour recording session thing. And I'd actually seen a picture of you and Carl, and I was like, yo, that's actually cool. And I was trying to find live recordings. I was just trying to find anything I could. Yeah, I mean I think that right there is a testament to the power of Twitter specifically, because that's just so cool that you can just connect with people whose work you like admire and stuff, and get to talk to them. And yeah, no, I thought that Brightside tweet was actually really hilarious. And also, it's funny that it was the Killers, Mr. Brightside, because if I'm not mistaken, I think they're Mormon. If I'm not correct. So once again, another somewhat religiously inspired project. But yeah, man, no, yeah, that was a cool way for us to meet. But yeah, dude, thank you for hopping on today. And yeah, guys, if you haven't already, go ahead and check out Melk the G6-49. Super dope band. I suggest starting with either the song Henry or Whoever Knows God. Those are really really sick.
I got
But yeah, man.
say real quick.
Huh?
I got one more thing I wanted to
Yeah.
say real quick. So I just found out actually, kind of preparing for this interview myself, that uh, Joyful Noise released this lathe cut single of a Melk song that's a cover of the Melvin song Zodiac, like a couple years ago. And I don't think I've ever even heard this since we've recorded it. And
Oh, dang.
so I didn't even realize that. So if you want to like go on their website and kind of check that out, that is a new recording kind of that we've released in the past couple of years. So I just wanted to
Okay.
get that out real quick. Yeah. So and he
Hell yeah.
also re-released the self-titled album on vinyl too last year. So he only made like 333 copies. So I don't know if there are any left. You might email Joyful Noise if you're interested. So just wanted to shout that out too. It was the first time we ever had a vinyl release after 19 years. So
Yeah. Well, yeah, cool. Guys, check that out. And yeah, yeah. Thank you for the interview. And I wish you the greatest blessings in all your future endeavors.
thank you. You too, man. Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.